Welcome back to another edition of the Routine Jumper Podcast, the podcast where we discuss everything NBA basketball. I'm your host, Jalen Dixon, and today we've got a ton of things to get into, but before we get started, remember to like, comment, and subscribe for daily NBA content. I know this week I've been a little off my game, got a couple things going on the side that I'm trying to set up to help with growing the podcast, so I've been a little busy, but outside of that, y'all know the deal. Last week we started it, this week we're continuing it. Rapid Fire Fridays. Very simple premise. 5 topics, 25 minutes, some of the most interesting topics in the NBA around the association, different things, whether it's players, teams, statistics, just anything that sticks out to me that I think is an interesting storyline that NBA fans like you should be tuned into on a night-to-night, game-to-game basis. Let's go ahead and start with Jalen Green. The shooting guard made his debut with the Phoenix Suns last night against the LA Clippers, got the dub, and my boy balled out. Let me read the stats out to y'all. 29 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, shot 50% from the field, hit 6 threes, and took 13 of them. So shot just about 45% from beyond the arc, was a plus 30, and played 23 minutes in the game. To me, a couple of the notes that I took down for this game, he looks super fluid in terms of his shot creation. One of his first baskets was a drive off the top of the key, attacking right at Ivica Zubac, finishing around him with real fluidity, and also was able to draw the foul for the and one. There was a couple of different situations where he had a lot of rim pressure off the dribble in pick and roll situations where I saw him just kind of playing very free and playing like somebody who desperately just wanted to get back on the floor, and he was playing with a certain level of urgency to remind the NBA why he was a former top 2 pick in the NBA draft. More so, one of the things that stood out to me was the 13 threes. If he's going to play next to somebody like Devin Booker, he has to be a 2 guard who can spread the floor. Devin Booker already has the ability to take over that point guard role. He's shown that in a handful of different seasons, that he has improved year after year at being a playmaker. I think he's already averaging 7 assists so far this season. Yeah, we discussed that last pod, that the last 2 years he's averaged 7 assists and shown more playmaking chops as somebody who's had to take more of a facilitating role. We know he can score 30 on a nightly basis, but his ability to set people up has been what set him apart over the last couple of years, despite the fact that people don't view him in the same light as when he was making that run through the Western Conference into an NBA Finals appearance. Jalen Green is looking like a legitimate fit next to Devin Booker right now. Obviously, 1 game sample size, but one of the things that stood out to me, again, 13 3-point shot attempts, but all 6 of his 3-point attempts were catch and shoot opportunities within the flow of the offense, whether it was something in a fast break situation where he flared out to a corner and became a jump shot option, whether it was a situation where he was simply the swing pass man at the top of the key and was somebody who was readily available, feet set, hands ready, fires and just knocking down shots. And there was even his last 3-point that he made was a saved ball off a tip that was supposed to go out of bounds. It got saved, swung to him in the corner. He fires from beyond the arc, knocks it down, and after that, the Clippers have to call a timeout to regroup. They're down 99-77, and they have this camera pan go to Devin Booker where you can see him just smiling, shaking his head, and nodding like in real admiration. And it kind of signaled to me like, yo, this is a guy that we need. You know, these first handful of games, we haven't had a true secondary shot creator. You've had good 3-point shooting from someone like Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal, who are both shooting about 37+% from beyond the arc so far, but nobody who can really, truly create offense next to Devin Booker on that perimeter right now. And Jalen Green came in and really showed what he's worth. Now, the most important thing for him, because this was the biggest knock on him with Houston, is his ability to create off the ball offense for himself. And again, I think that's where the knockdown 3-point shots come from. And I think the fact that he took 13 threes also shows that he heard the chirping. One of his most negative reviews in terms of his play style is that he's somebody that relies so heavily on his athleticism that his lack of a consistent 3-point shot has held him back as a developing on-ball weapon, and more so as a guy who you can actually play free-flowing offense with. One of the biggest reasons why him and Alperen Sengun tend to stagger when one was great versus the other was because when Jalen Green was the most effective, it was when Alperen Sengun was out and everything was running through him on ball. And when as soon as you put Alperen Sengun back in the mix, Jalen Green took a little bit of a dip, and you could see that ability to play next to another star was the thing that ended up making him the odd man out when it came to getting somebody like Kevin Durant, where if you're going to have a second option or move somebody to a first option above Alperen Sengun, let it be one of the best scorers in the NBA, right? Let it be one of the best scorers in NBA history. Maybe not somebody like Jalen Green, who still is trying to develop a real on-ball and off-ball offensive identity. So I thought this was a great debut for him. Showed some mental growth, showed some physical steps in terms of being somebody coming off of an injury to start the season. Again, you missed the first handful of games to kick off the year. You think someone's going to come in rusty? Nope. He comes in, he's playing exactly like how he used to play with the Rockets, but with a little bit of extra sauce to it, kind of showing that he kind of read the room of what he needs to be in order to stick in the NBA. If Jalen Green is going to have a long-term career in this league, you can't be the Zach LaVine of the Minnesota Timberwolves, the high-flying dunk finisher. You have to be the Zach LaVine of the Chicago Bulls that became the 37% three-point shooter, one of the best backdoor slashers in the NBA, right? If that's the comp that he got, and that's the comp he got coming out of college, coming out of G League Ignite, if Jalen Green is going to live up to having a long-term career in the NBA and play to the comp of someone like a Zach LaVine, you want to lean into being a much more effective, high volume and efficient three-point shooter that just so happens to have the athleticism to be a backdoor cutter, a big-time slasher, someone you can give the ball to at the top of the key and operate in pick-and-roll situations where you have to be fearful as the big man if he comes to slash and he comes driving down that paint that you might possibly find yourself in a poster. That's what's going to make Jalen Green so special. We've seen signs of it. We've seen signs of it through his early portion of his career in Houston. I think that Phoenix is going to help him embrace that much more, especially because of the fact that, quite frankly, past Devin Booker, he kind of has to be that guy for this team to win games on a night-to-night basis if they want to be anything beyond just a middle-of-the-pack squad. I saw something that I wanted to take note of, which is in the preseason, the over-under for the Phoenix Suns was 34.5 wins. I'm sorry, maybe this is just me going out on a limb, but I do not believe that with Devin Booker playing the way he's playing, with Jalen Green back healthy, Dylan Brooks healthy on the floor, you got Mark Williams, Royce O'Neal, Grayson Allen. If this team is firing on all cylinders with the way they've been shooting the three ball so far this season, you start to get some more rim protection from Mark Williams, hopefully see some development from guys like Kamal Maluach as well. This is a team that I think at least wins 40 games. I don't know if that means you make it to the postseason because the Western Conference is that dense, but this is a team that's going to fight way above the 34.5 game threshold that they're set for the over-under. I'm hitting a hard over on that over-under. And anybody who went over when that line was set, good on you, because I think you're going to win some real money. Next up, I got to talk about Cade Cunningham again. First of all, y'all really showed some love to that last Cade Cunningham video that I did. Shout out to y'all. I thought it was really important that because the Detroit Pistons are this team that doesn't get talked about enough, and last year to some may have been viewed as a flash in the pan season, I'm here to tell y'all, Cade Cunningham and the Detroit Pistons look real. And I know this is not the greatest guy to take the word from, but Kendrick Perkins went on the Road Tripping podcast and told those boys, he said, he genuinely believes that Cade Cunningham looks like the second best player in the Eastern Conference right now behind Giannis Antetokounmpo. I'm not necessarily sure where I stand on that right now, especially given the fact that Donovan Mitchell is absolutely balling. We're going to talk about him a little bit later, but Cade Cunningham as a full, complete basketball player on both sides of the floor has this Pistons team rolling in a real way. The record does not reflect how well these boys are playing. This is a team that has been fighting back from multiple double-digit deficits, gotten a couple wins in those fighting back situations, and they've been playing real special. Let me talk about what Cade Cunningham's done over the last 4 games. 31 points, 3 rebounds, 10 assists. 33 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists. 21 points, 6 rebounds, 18 assists. 30 points, 6 rebounds, 10 assists. He is the leading man, easily, not even a question, is the leading man for Clutch Player of the Year this year. If Cade Cunningham is not at the top of the ballot right now for Clutch Player of the Year, you're not watching the game. But if you don't watch the game and you're one of those people who like to watch what the stat sheet shows, let me tell you what the stat says. It says that in the fourth quarter, he's scoring 86 points, 14 rebounds, 15 assists, shooting 50, 45, 81 on 62% true shooting so far this season. 86 total points in the fourth quarter. 50, 40, 80, shooting 62%. Again, that's on par with your average rim running center. Your average play finishing rim running center is around 60 to 65% true shooting. He's doing that as somebody who has been operating in the mid-range. He's shooting 43% consistently within the mid-range area so far this season, which is actually kind of above average, actually significantly above average, shooting 43% from the mid-range area. He has been absolutely balling. Let's also talk about some of the other guys that have been balling for the Pistons. I gave a lot of praise to Cade Cunningham in that last vid, but they've got two guys in that front court that are also doing major damage. Isaiah Stewart tied for the second most blocks so far this season with 19 with Ryan Kalkbrenner of the Charlotte Hornets. Check out that video. I'm telling y'all, don't sleep. The Hornets got a little bit of body over there with him, with Ryan Kalkbrenner, Zion James, Colin Cowherd. I'm just saying, but we're talking about the Pistons right now. Isaiah Stewart, 19 blocks this season, tied with Ryan Kalkbrenner, second behind only Victor Wembanyama. Now, Victor Wembanyama got 29, but let me tell you this. What if I told you that of the top 5 players in blocks so far this season, Isaiah Stewart was the shortest player in the group? Not only is he the shortest player in the group, he's the only non-7-footer in the top 5. That's showing you elite level defense as a rim protector despite the fact that he's playing undersized. Also, gotta shout out Jalen Green. Over the last 4 games, 22.5 points per game, 13.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists, while shooting 64.7% from the field. Again, I told y'all, 60 to 65%. Whether it's from the field / true shooting, I'm telling you that rim running center. But Jalen Green, he even had a 22-22 game. These two competing on the glass in the paint. Jalen Green, you can see slowly but surely developing a little bit better athletically around the rim as a rim defender, which was the biggest thing. I know Pistons fans have looked at Jalen Green and been like, yo, he's so athletic. He's so physically gifted, but he seems lackadaisical on defense. It seems like he's just still so raw as a talent when it comes to being a real rim protector. Yeah. He's starting to figure it out. Jalen Green playing next to Isaiah Stewart has them as the twin towers that ain't towering over much. Because despite the fact that they play so physically strong, they're actually not even one of the biggest they're not even one of the biggest front courts in the NBA. These two guys play physical. They play hard-nosed. They're going to be two guys that I think if we're talking about playoff basketball, half-court basketball where the game slows down, things get physical, you got to set the tone early by having, real aggressive rolls to the rim. You want to have that hard foul that sends a message to that driving guard that, hey, bro, it's going to be a long series for you. This Detroit Pistons team, they are starting to turn back the clock. With Cade Cunningham at the helm, with these boys, Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Green, hooping the way they are going to be a team that I think finishes top 5 in the Eastern Conference this year. I think despite the fact that and I said this last video, I think that the record itself is not going to be indicative of this team, quote unquote, being better. But I think this is still a team that's going to finish top 5, top 6 in the Eastern Conference. It's going to look like they stagnated. It's going to look like they didn't get that much better as far as the standings. But as far as how they produce on a night-to-night basis as a basketball team, you can already see it. This team is getting much better, and that's without having a real three-point marksman. They had Malik Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr. last year knocking down threes at a high clip. Now they're just relying on being a hard-nosed defense and giving Cade Cunningham the damn ball in the fourth quarter. Asar Thompson has been more than solid defensively. I saw more than a handful of possessions last game where he was just stripping folks in the backcourt. I mean, come on now. This team defensively, they have a chance to be a top 10 defense this year, and I don't know if they'll be a quote-unquote top 10 offense by the end of the year, but I would not be surprised if this team is a top 10 defense and they're a team that's wreaking havoc for somebody in the first round. Next up, we got to talk about LeBron James. He's set to make his debut very, very soon. It sounds like he's already starting to engage in 5-on-5 activity, but Colin Cowherd sent him a message. There's been a couple of people that have spoken about what life should look like or will look like when LeBron James comes back after watching what the Lakers have been able to do, 7-2 LeBron has missed every single game. Luka has missed time. Austin Reeves has missed time. Yet this team just continues to ball out. Jeff Teague has mentioned things. Kendrick Perkins has mentioned things. But I think Colin Cowherd said something that really stuck with me and resonated, and I'll be interested to hear what you guys say in the comment section down below about this one. I took down the whole quote because I think it's really intriguing. He said, LeBron James has not played this year. There's some supposition that LeBron has his feelings hurt because he hasn't been offered an extension. The torch has been passed in LA. Now it's Luka's team, and the Lakers don't need LeBron to sell tickets. I also feel like the league has a little bit of a LeBron fatigue. So my takeaway from all this, LeBron's got to fall in line or leave. LeBron is going to have to play off ball. And LeBron, he has to be the centerpiece. He becomes your offensive ecosystem, and it's over. That is done. You cannot coach this organization going forward with LeBron being a centerpiece. He's just an asset. He went on to say, or somewhere within that quote, he mentioned this is not Cleveland and this is not even Miami. I think that's fair. Now, do I think this is the media trying to stir up hoopla to create a certain dramatic storyline within Lakers land to create some kind of narrative that LeBron is disgruntled? There's a chance that this farewell tour won't look the way everybody expected because everybody is kind of tired of LeBron James. The Lakers are better without LeBron on the floor. Narratives that simply will not stick and should not stick. Yes, I believe these are all things where once LeBron James comes back, if he's averaging 25 points per game and he's still fitting within the offense next to Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves, and they're kicking people's tail and he's going crazy and he's looking like the guy that was third team All-NBA last season, all of this will die down because it'll be, oh, LeBron was able to assimilate despite the fact that these two guys were absolutely balling while he was out of commission. I think the truth of the matter is this. LeBron James has always wanted to find himself in a position where he doesn't have to nearly be on ball as much. I think he's always been positioned in a weird way to be forced into needing to be that initial ball handler / shot creator. Yes, do I think that LeBron James comes with a little bit of heliocentric tendencies? Yes, he's LeBron James. When you talk about creating an offense where he is the centerpiece, it's because at the point guard position essentially that he plays, there are so many moving parts that just fit around him in a way where if you build the team to his strengths, which he has many of, no glaze, but he has a lot of strengths involving the passing game, operating in pick and roll, being a downhill finisher, still being someone who's athletic enough to help you in transition. Building a team that favors his skill set tends to win you basketball games because 9 times out of 10, at least over the last handful of seasons, even with LA, he's still been the best player on the team. I think even in spite of Anthony Davis, because Anthony Davis was inconsistent in terms of his time on the floor. LeBron James had his injury issues as well. Austin Reeves was kind of developing over time, but I think he's shown in these handful of games that even though he wasn't able to get the same kind of shine as a ball handler when playing next to LeBron, he clearly was developing his game by being able to be so effective both on ball and off ball with LeBron on the floor. Now you add a full season of Luka Doncic on the floor. Now you add Austin Reeves taking off. LeBron James finally can actually call himself the second best player on the team. He hasn't been the second best player on the Lakers since joining them. There was maybe the year where they won the championship in the bubble, Anthony Davis shot the ball absolutely out of his mind from beyond the arc. People are still questioning whether or not that season was real or not. Other than that, LeBron James has legitimately been the best player for the Lakers the last handful of years. And so every time he tried to hand the keys over, he never truly successfully could pull it off. He never really was able to pull it off. This may be the first actual season where you can look at this Lakers team and say, yo, LeBron LeBron James is definitively the second best player on this team. The idea of saying he has to fall back, the idea of saying he has to fall in, I think it's less of a forceful tone that Colin Cowherd needs to come with and more of an understanding that LeBron James wants to be in this position. He's indicated this. He said it. He's put himself in positions time after time, whether you support it or not, to play next to players that should, in theory, be a caliber above where he is at his advanced age. But nonetheless, I think that LeBron James is actually going to do pretty fine. I'm not the biggest LeBron James fan personally, so I don't want this to come off as a glazed segment. But I genuinely believe that when LeBron James comes back, he's going to work perfectly fine with what they got going, and they are doing more than fine without him, which means that when he gets back in, they can only go up. Will there be a little bit of a gelling process? Of course, these guys have been hooping with the ball in their hands so much more frequently. But at the same time, bro, it's LeBron James. It's going to work itself out. And I think this team is actually going to continue to build off of where they've been at. Next up, Carmelo Anthony said on his podcast, talking about all the Ja Morant drama, that he feels like the Miami Heat would be a perfect fit for where Ja Morant should go next if the Memphis Grizzlies actually do choose to move off him. He says, this is not about basketball with Ja. This is about him being accountable as a professional. I'm not mad at him in Miami. Pat, talking about Pat Riley, will let you be you, but you also got to be a professional. He mentioned a couple of other things in the midst of the quote that I thought were important too, like how Ja Morant kind of helped build the transitioning culture for the Memphis Grizzlies from the grit and grind Grizzly years with Zebo and Mark Gasol and those guys to what they became as like kind of a swag era team with him and Dylan Brooks and that team. Genuinely, if I'm being honest with you, I think Ja Morant did help build the Memphis culture into something totally different, something a little bit more fan favorite friendly. With the fact that he's just this youthful above the rim player. You know, the Memphis Grizzlies had 2 back to the basket bruisers. So getting a high flyer in Ja Morant was a completely different flow. But I think this whole thing with the Memphis Grizzlies as far as culture is concerned died when they traded Dylan Brooks a few seasons ago. I think if you're going to be realistic about what they were the most fun, they were the most entertaining, coming out of the locker room, doing the little dance, the whole song and dance that became a meme eventually, and actually became kind of one of the lead catalysts to what was kind of a culture shock across the NBA. Now you got teams like the Oklahoma City Thunder doing the group interview at the end of games, something that I think they've been doing for a while now, but something that gained a lot more traction as we started to focus on these team dynamics before and after games of like how these guys bond and how these guys gel. I think the joy has kind of been zapped from Ja Morant. I know he said that literally, but I think that all started with the Dylan Brooks thing, using him as the scapegoat initially. Now you move off of his boy Desmond Bane. I think you're looking at a situation where going to a more structured environment like Miami, I know people like, there's a love-hate relationship with something like Heat culture, for example. There's always a love-hate relationship with Heat culture unless you're a Miami Heat fan. But the truth of the matter is, it works. Guys have to be focused. Guys have to be put in a position where they can play at a high level. There's a certain level of conditioning the team has to be at. There's a certain level of leadership and professionalism that they play with. There's a reason why you don't really hear guys when they go to Miami getting into too much trouble, despite the fact that it is Miami. Like, I think there's a lot of merit to what Carmelo Anthony is saying in regards to Ja Morant needing a new infrastructure around him, right? There was once this building block that Ja stood on, or this pedestal, you could say, that Ja Morant stood on as the guy, the lead dude for the Memphis Grizzlies, the head honcho that everything was built around. And as this team has continued to make change after change, whether it's the way they play, the coaching staff, the expectations around this team have changed in a real way. And as they've changed, Ja Morant's also declined in certain situations. As a rim finisher, his rim finishing percentage has decreased every single season over the last 3 to 4 years. He's also been somebody that's been injured more often than he's been on the floor. I saw a stat that said he's missed more games in the regular season than he's played over the last 3 to 4 seasons. That's huge. He needs a reset button that will work for him in terms of forcing him to both, first of all, bring his lunch pail to work, so to speak, in terms of getting back to taking the game seriously. But number 2, I think he needs to be in a scenario where he's held accountable by a regime where things don't revolve around him. And I think that's what Carmelo Anthony was saying. When the entire operation is built around you, no one can tell you what to do, right? If you're standing in the house that I built, you can't tell me what I can do in that house. And that's essentially what Ja Morant is looking at in this situation with a brand new head coach. But now that now that the pendulum is swinging, it seems like he's slowly but surely becoming the odd man out. I think it would be best for him to go somewhere where he has to essentially humble himself. And I think that would need best, not just for John Morant's career as far as professionalism, but I think grounding himself back in the stuff that made him such an interesting story when he was drafted out of Murray State, grounding himself back in the hustle, grounding himself back into the grind. It sounds cliche, but I also think it could be the best thing for him in terms of getting back to playing that top 3 guard in the NBA caliber basketball he was playing all those years ago, where we were having a conversation about whether or not he was the best guard in the game. He was right there in conversations, right there with Steph Curry and those guys for the top guard in the game. Now, was he usurping those guys? No, but he was in that convo. He hasn't been in that convo over the last 2 to 3 years, and a change of scenery, I think, could really do it. Miami might be the best fit. You guys let me know in the comment section down below where you guys think would be the best fit for John Morant. I think Miami actually is a sleeper spot for him. Right now, sportsbooks are saying that the leading candidate for him is the Sacramento Kings. That's usually where your career goes to die. So we'll see how that whole thing goes. We're past the 25-minute mark. I hate it, but at the same time, the show must go on. We are on the last topic of the podcast. Donovan Mitchell, been hooping. I told y'all at the beginning when I was talking about Cade Cunningham, if there was one guard in the Eastern Conference that I would say could give Cade Cunningham a run for his money, might be Donovan Mitchell. Let me tell y'all why. Donovan Mitchell leads the league in true shooting at 72.4%, which is higher than Giannis Antetokounmpo and Nikola Jokic. Oh, yeah, by the way, you know I mentioned how B. Stu was the only non-7-footer in the top 5 of shot blockers so far this season? Well, Donovan Mitchell is the only non-center / forward in the top 10 in true shooting percentage. And I believe the only other real forward in that list was like Cedric Cowherd. And I think you could count Aaron Gordon because he's a power forward as well. Aaron Gordon, Jeremy Grant. But again, the power forward, the only true small forward in that group was Cedric Cowherd. Other than that, power forwards and centers take up that entire top 10. And then there's just Donovan Mitchell at the top of the list. Also averaging 31.9 points, 2.6 rebounds, 5 assists, along with a steal and a half a game. 6 games so far this season with 30 plus points. And my dude is coming off of a game with 46 points, 10 of 10 from the free throw line, and knocked down 6 threes to beat the Philadelphia 76ers. Donovan Mitchell, bro, this Cleveland Cavaliers team is trying to figure themselves out. They just got Darius Garland back recently. Obviously, this is a team with a ton of expectations this year. Like, this 4 horseman group with Donovan Mitchell, Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, I don't want to say they necessarily have to win the championship this year, but the expectations the Cleveland Cavaliers have this year are built off of, at bare minimum, needing to make the ECF. If this Cleveland Cavaliers team does not make the Eastern Conference Finals, real questions are going to be asked about whether or not this team can be a staying power with this four-man group at the helm of it all as the main core. One guy who's trying to keep this show on the road is Donovan Mitchell. I mean, by far been their best player, by far been their staying power. Also has had to play point guard in a certain level at a certain level for this team, because they've been trying to figure out what the point guard rotation really is going to look like, because they've had guys like Craig play, and they've had Lonzo Ball play, but Donovan Mitchell has had to be the do-it-all guard in the backcourt for this team so far. Getting Darius Garland should hopefully help them get back to where they really want to be, which is that team that was on, like, winning 55, 60 games, looking like the most dominant team in the regular season for the last 2 years. Donovan Mitchell, bro, in that hierarchy, you guys let me know in the comment section down below. If you had to go between Donovan Mitchell and Cade Cunningham for the best guard in the Eastern Conference so far this season, I'm interested to hear what you guys believe. I think that Cade got it slightly just because of what he's been able to do defensively as part of what is a much better overall defensive unit with the Detroit Pistons. But Donovan Mitchell, from an efficiency standpoint and from a scoring standpoint, has been on a different level of demon time. But with all that being said, again, I went over my threshold. The goal is 25 minutes, y'all. Eventually, I'm going to get it into rotation where we're going to hit the 25-minute mark every single episode. But this has been another edition of the Routine Jumper Podcast, another edition of the Rapid Fire Fridays episode. You guys let me know in the comment section down below what kind of topics you guys would like me to touch on in episodes like these. And again, I will see you guys next time. I even might have a bonus episode for you guys because of the fact that I've been missing content so far this week. Missed content, I think once or twice. So I want to make up for that in a real way. So I might have a bonus episode for you guys. So check that out. You got to put the post notifications bell on so you know when I'm dropping new episodes. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.